Today, we are doing a 2-round 2026 NFL mock draft. This is going to be without trades. Trades mock draft will be coming later this week. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It is based on all 22 grades. I have over 290 of these players broken down into a big board, as well as per position and the full grading scale over on the Patreon. It is $5 a month. We have a great community over there. You get that every single month. You get all the updates before other people do, as well as some certain, extended positional ranking videos. I'll do like a top 20 here. And if I've graded 35, 40 players, it's a full 40 there on the video. And then we also end up having some cool exclusive videos coming soon. Let's get into this though, starting out with the number 1 overall pick. The New York Jets are sitting here, and again, no trades. This is the PFF draft order. Don't get your feathers ruffled. I am going to be going after a quarterback. And some people believe Dante Moore is the answer. Some people think Fernando Mendoza is the answer. Some people think Ty Simpson is the answer. And this is my top 3 in order right now. I think in Lenorth, this is my top 4, which is crazy. You guys know me. I don't do shit that's contrarian. I don't like to do it solely for that reason. But I'm always willing to say what I believe. And what I always believe is not always what everybody else believes. Why I have Malachi Lawrence so high. Granted, that's a 2024 grade that I'm waiting to update, but he's been doing a fantastic job this year. Regardless, I'm going to be going Fernando Mendoza. He has been the guy who's had the most experience out of the group. When you talk about the top 3, Ty Simpson is the most red hot right now. However, he also has 7 starts. You can look at that as a plus, but right now, especially when a GM is saying, I need to understand, are you going to be consistent year over year? Especially with some of the Bama quarterbacks not necessarily having the best track record, I do think there's going to be some certain factors that might put, when these guys are so close together in a tight-knit race, one guy a little bit over the other. Dante Moore, also very limited experience. Fernando Mendoza is a multi-year starter, multi-program starter, and he is re-getting hot at the right time. Had 2 weeks in a row where I really thought that he was kind of sloppy, and then he ended up going and making a fantastic outing this past week versus Michigan State. So we're going to see if the trend continues upwards or if we're going to see a little bit more of a consistent dip. If it's the latter, then we'll end up talking about like Dante Moore being a little bit more of the primary option, or Ty Simpson if Ty continues his trend. But at number 2 for the Miami Dolphins, quarterback's got to be on the mind at number 2. I love the idea of just continuing to go after the wide receiver route, and you can end up getting your superstar there. But such a good wide receiver class. By the way, the reason I'm talking about that is because I think Jordan Tyson's an absolute stud. I think he's going to be probably one of the top 10 to 15 receivers in the NFL right out the gate. And the Dolphins, you do need to probably rearm yourselves in that category. However, I do think that even if Tua stays, first off, house is being cleaned. I hope to God Greer gets his ass fired. And I hate saying that because I don't want anybody's job to be fired. But for the sake of y'all freaking Dolphins fans, he needs to go. I hope that, he's made a lot of money. You know what? Screw it. But the thing is, if Tua, based on the contract, you might not be able to get rid of him. A lot of teams have taken on pretty heavy cap hits to get rid of guys they view as liabilities, so there's still a chance. But God forbid, Tua turn the ball over, is still there. These quarterbacks that we were just talking about, remember what I was talking about them? Don't have a lot of experience. Could be a good reason to have that backup there in case they have those struggles, or have that time for them to develop before taking over. So I think it's a win-win situation right there. The question is Dante Moore or Ty Simpson. I do think that this new organization coming in might just say, we failed on the last Bama QB. Maybe let's try a new direction. And to be fair, Dante Moore has been incredible outside of, the Indiana game. I do think he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, especially given where he was viewed as. At UCLA, it was pretty high hype off the bat, and then it really calmed down. And then now he ended up actually taking a year to sit and develop. And, we're seeing a little bit more of a day one quality starter now. Dante Moore, the selection there for the Dolphins. And again, yes, there's so much to fix on the team. By all means, am I saying that you need to stick at 2 and pick no matter what? Absolutely not. If you end up having a competing offer, which based on how the draft board is currently set up, I don't think you're going to have a lot of competing offers. The next team I think that will be seriously looking into a quarterback is probably going to be the Browns. and then you're looking at the Raiders here, the jump up to 2 is like multiple first round picks. It does seem to be a situation where it's like, a little too pricey. But if the top 5 is going to be a little bit more generous in terms of the teams looking for the quarterback option, or let's just say teams that are a little bit more aggressive to move up, I would say move down. I mean, honestly, to just kind of counter myself, if the Ravens are sitting here and saying, we really want Reuben Bain Jr., we don't want him going and letting Mickey Loomis end up getting a top tier edge rusher. Granted, you guys run a different system right now, but the next 2 teams are prime positions for Reuben Bain. Then I guess that's actually a pretty good idea. You move down, get picks, and still get your quarterback. But again, just feel free to let me know what you guys think, how you guys should handle that situation at 2. A lot of positions to solve, but also the most important one needs to get solved too. At number 3, we have the New Orleans Saints, and Reuben Bain is the best candidate. Now, the Saints are not necessarily you guys run multiple fronts. So I'm not saying that it's impossible for you to go after Reuben Bain, or it's also not like the best case scenario. One of the main reasons Mickey Loomis does have a kind of a hold on the nuts of the situation. You guys know this. And Mickey, I don't know what the hell. There you go. Thank you, PFF. Reuben Bain's fantastic, but Mickey loves measurables. Reuben's going to have pretty short arms. He's not going to be the best tester in the world. Very strong, but not great in terms of acceleration and speed. Still good, but again, we're talking about top of the top. Regardless, Reuben Bain Jr., I do think is almost too good to pass on for a team that just needs to hit. Now, if you guys end up moving Olave or Rashid Shaheed, I do think Jordan Tyson's a very intriguing option here. But we do have pick number 35 that we can also explore that option. We're going to go Reuben Bain there and just go best player available. Don't overcomplicate it. Just go after the player that fits best, which again, with a 3-4 front, he's not going to be the best guy on planet Earth, but because he's also bigger, you do have packages where you can kick him inside. Think about how Brandon Graham was used in Philadelphia. You could end up doing that with Reuben Bain and providing some crazy pass rush there if you end up bringing some DPRs in later in the draft or through free agency. At number 4 for the Tennessee Titans, Reuben Bain is the dream selection there. However, I still want to get a number 1 weapon there for Cam Ward. I'm going Jordan Tyson all day, every day. We're seeing now more than ever these wide receivers transitioning to the NFL extremely early and extremely seamlessly. That's a huge win for teams that need to give their quarterback a confidence boost. Jordan Tyson is the next in line. At number 5 for the Baltimore Ravens, we just need to get good players. I mean, honestly, this team has been surprisingly riddled. Now, granted, if Lamar were there, I think you guys would not be at number 5, but it has shown, his absence has shown there are areas this team needs to work on, including their run defense. And I think on the defensive interior, Peter Woods is going to be perfect for that. He ended up actually having a pretty poor week versus the SMU Mustangs. I'm going to go and check that game out specifically. First off, I'm an SMU alumni, so I love to be able to see our alumnus. It'd be cool to see like Logan Parr handle Peter Woods. But, in terms of run defense, there's nobody with a higher floor in the class, in my opinion, than Peter Woods. So we're going to get the floor play here. Pause. And then end up getting that pass rushing upside that we've also seen from Peter Woods. He's a really, really good player. Has some insane flashes of dominance that I would like to have in Baltimore. Granted, I'm a Steelers fan. So the way I handle these situations is I think through the lens of the team that's picking. I'm never going to show favoritism. I become a fan of all 32 teams because of this. But regardless, selecting Peter Woods to me just feels like an instant correct move. And number 6 for the Cleveland Browns. This team needs to look at quarterback, needs to look at wide receiver, needs to look at defensive back. Like there's just a lot of areas, offensive line, a lot of areas to improve. Wide receiver is possible, but we do have pick 19, and I feel very comfortable with a good weapon being available to us then. A lot of people are saying you need to look at the quarterback route. Now, am I ready to say Ty Simpson above Shadur Sanders? I mean, yes, I think talent-wise, Ty Simpson is better. I'm a very big hater of Shadur's personality. Call me out, call me Unk, call me white boy. Feel free to. I'm not doing it for any of those actual reasons, but I do believe when you're a leader of a multi-billion-dollar organization, you just have to be mature. Not saying you have to be buttoned up and do everything perfectly, because I think, it's funny when Cam Ward says, like, we ass. Like, that's kind of funny. At the same time, I think there's just a little bit of more of a maturity to how you handle your relationship with your team compared to yourself. And so that's why, in my head, I've definitely been not a fan of the personality side. But on the talent side, he was my QB2 of the draft. So, I mean, I'm personally reasonable in terms of understanding, the talent he has. I think he's a better actual on-field quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. I'm not ready to pull the trigger yet. And I think this is something maybe on day 2, you can once again send another pick that way. I do think for the Cleveland Browns, this is a prime opportunity to look at that wide receiver realm and look at someone like Cardinal Tate. That's not going to be a bad option for you. Um, I mean, honestly, you can't really go wrong with any of these moves. Like, the Browns are in a very comfortable spot to where you can be very flexible, but I'm going to go offensive line here. And I love Caleb Tiernan. That's a thing for me. But Spencer Fano is the guy who I think, in terms of offensive line play, can you please, for the love of God, actually work? He's somebody who I actually have very, very high and I respect a ton. In a class full of guys who are probably not going to be tackles, Spencer Fano is one of the few where I think it's still very possible. It's a very bad class. Just going to call it out for how it is. I'm a sucker for Tiernan, is what it is, but we're going to go Spencer Fano here, tackle out of Utah. We're going to get weaponry at 19, and then we're just going to continue building up the offense around that, because the defense is going to be the defense. As much as I would love to go after best player available, I mean, it looks like you guys are doing what you need to do. The Vegas Raiders at number 7. Talk about ass. I mean, I think this is where I'll go Ty Simpson. It's another team where, I mean, it just depends. I know you have an out on Geno Smith. I'm not saying a quarterback is not the need, but if the value is right here, i.e. Arvell Reese is a guy who I'm thinking of, you might end up opting to go after the quarterback on day 2, whether it be Garrett Nussmeier or Jaden Mayava. I know a lot of people like Sorsby. I'm not a fan of his ball velocity. That's just me. I still think he's a good player, and I'm pretty sure he has years of eligibility left. I'm pretty sure he's young. So, I mean, there's definitely that factor as well. But we're going to go Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama, to be the leader here. PFF, man, like, get your shit together. I mean, normally I can end up blaming a lot of other things, but I actually know for once that my internet's working well. I pay a lot for it. But let's continue on here. Number 8 for the New York Giants. Caleb Downs, honestly, is probably the best move, but a boundary corner is a necessity at the same time. The question is, do we go Mansour Delane, who you guys see the updated grade? There's some movement in there. You guys can see a lot of that is very up to date in a way that has not been seen as of last week. And then also Carnell Tate. I think Mekhi Lemon's a little bit like vertically limited in terms of what he could provide. Vertically, as in literally vertically, not talking about vertically down the field. 5'11 versus 6'3, both of them very similar in terms of the actual talent they bring. Carnell at number 22, technically tied 21 for me. Mekhi Lemon up at number 12. I think Mekhi's a better receiver, but Carnell is just fantastic. I mean, there's so many good wide receivers that I'm like, you guys can see how many wide receivers. I have Concepcion in my top 25. So what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers in my top 25. That's nuts. So we're not going to try to take anything away from Carnell Tate. It's kind of like, what flavor of ice cream do you want? Do you want the vertical possession catch guy? Do you want the, vertical but can kind of do everything receiver in Carnell? Do you want the guy who's like a little bit more nifty and then also has a little bit of grit to him in the contested catch game with Lemon? That's that. I will say this. The wide receiver class is so deep, I'm going to ignore it. Ballsy to do. But when you need a boundary corner, I also think this class is pretty overrated in some pretty specific areas. And one of it is kind of the cornerback class. I think there's a top group and there's a pretty big drop off. And Mansour Delane is by far the best cornerback in the class. And that's with me loving Keith Abney and Avion Trell. Mansour Delane, he was my cornerback 1 coming into the year. He's going to continue being that. I think he has taken his game out to a whole new level as well. I think he's going to be a true corner 1 going forward. And even though he might be sub 6 foot, he doesn't play like it. So fantastic corner there out of LSU, formerly Virginia Tech. At number 9 for the Arizona Cardinals, Caleb Downs is so hard to pass on, but he's also not been fully on his game. I do have him at number 1. I honestly should put the asterisk there because I do think he'll end up being probably around like 8. Maybe he might be below Arvell Reese. I'm not sure, but that's the exact guy I'm going to go for here. Arvell Reese being a true Mike linebacker who has the ability to transition to Sam for blitz packages, even going on the line of scrimmage. That's an invaluable trait. And when you have Gannon, who is extremely smart and utilized linebackers that he's actually someone who's maximized linebacker value back when he was the DC of the Eagles, not necessarily their strength. Now you end up getting someone who could end up being a franchise changer there with Arvell Reese, line of scrimmage wise, petrifying. But then also, he's been so damn reliable off the ball. You can't go wrong. I mean, this guy is just fantastic. Again, someone who I consider at number 7 over a quarterback for a team that needs a quarterback. At number 10 for the Houston Texans, Caleb Downs is kind of hard to pass on, but I still am. Still going to look past that. Jeremiah Love definitely is the dark horse candidate here. Woody Marks is not just, unfortunately, it does not look like he's going to be taking on a full RB1 load. Pause. It's International Nut Day as well. It's probably a bad time to say something like that. But I would say that offensive line is where I would try to focus the most. By the way, I graded Austin, I think it's Searveld. He's a guard to me. And I also think he needs to go back to school. Also, PFF, man, get the damn logos working. But I'm just going to be so real. I personally think that there's not a good option here, and I need to take a different one. And it's the toughest team to draft for because I don't think you have very many needs outside of the offensive line. And there's just not a tackle worth it here, and you don't take guard at 10. That's just kind of like a taboo thing to do. I love Caleb Lamu. Honestly, if you want to go after that route, it's not a bad one. I think he's a really underrated offensive lineman at this point, which is nuts to say, but I think he's a guard. I mean, we're just coming off seeing Jeremiah Love with a 40-yard game. We'll go with Jeremiah Love because I do think after seeing Genty prove to be an RB1, Judkins being fantastic, and then Omarion Hampton outside of injury being finally showing up and being a huge impact, I think the NFL is going to trust taking running back early if you have the early grade. We'll put that there. At number 11 for the Cincinnati Bengals, edge rusher is going to be a primary focus for them. The problem being, I don't think any of these guys fit the standard profile of what the Bengals organization has looked for in terms of measurables. And I think someone like Quincy Rhodes is going to be a little bit more intriguing. Mateo Uiagalelei, a new dark horse for me. I'm not saying these guys are in the first. I'm saying just down the line. Where the hell did they put him? I probably just zoomed right past him. Gabe Akis. I guess it's not that crazy for PFF. He looks so skinny now. He is not 270. I can promise you. I just watched an offensive tackle go up against him, and I'm pretty sure it was the Ohio State guy. He looks so thin compared to what he used to. He was kind of chunky before, so he's recomped his build. Probably somebody the Bengals will be open to. Again, 270 range. So I'm going to go after best player available. I'm going to go Caleb Downs. I think this team will absolutely love going best player available. They don't move up and down the board. They like to stick and pick, and we're going to give them the best player. So as a Steelers fan, I gave, what did I end up giving? Caleb Downs and Peter Woods in division. That's how you know I don't have favorites. Number 12, Washington Commanders. It's a team that honestly I thought really overachieved last year. I hate to break it to y'all. It is a team that I had them, I think, at 31, and you guys just overachieved. You did so well, and that's a sign of good coaching, the playmakers making the right plays, your signal caller being the right guy. I love seeing that. But we kind of crashed a little bit closer to earth, and now I do think that we need to start focusing on the top-tier edge talent. I think David Bailey's not going to have the bend. I think his 3-cone, I think he should skip out on the 3-cone. I think his 3-cone's going to be pretty garbage for what he ends up bringing to the table in terms of size. But it's I don't think that he statistically has been phenomenal, but translatability different than how you play in college. TJ Parker is someone who's grown on me a ton, but I do think we need to start recognizing a big dark horse candidate as a first round player. And I think these are just like preseason eval, just kind of sticking and picking somebody. Clev Lubin, 6'3", 250, but his worst game is the one that I just graded versus Miami, and he absolutely killed it. I mean, unbelievably strong, maybe a little bit short on the arm length, but this guy has been just insanely productive. He can bench press anybody as well. Super smart. I think I'm going to put my foot down and say this guy will end up being a first round pick. Will he be at number 12? I mean, the problem is there's TJ Parker here that a lot of people love. And I really like TJ Parker. But you know what? Fuck it. We're going to go Clef Leuven here. He's been the best edge rusher, arguably, in college. Like, outside of Ruben Bain, Clef Leuven has been the best in college. He's just been, like, top tier. And I graded him. I fell in love with his tape. He's strong. He's polished. Like, just somebody who came in essentially like off the street and ended up just absolutely kicking ass. So Clef Leuven, the selection there for the Commanders. At 13 for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, this is a team that I think could be a little bit more flexible than I think I gave it credit for before. I used to say like, hey, you look at the guys they've drafted, which is very true. It's all like 260, 265 plus. But if you are looking recently, you look at Ezraku, I think that was just more BPA. But the guys who are having a lot of success, you look at James Houston, who is undersized. Like, I think there's definitely going to be an element here that could be flexible, which probably is not something I'm going to do here in the first round. I think with the talent available, I'm going to go wide receiver. I could have done it for the Commanders as well, but honestly, Clev would have been my choice for the Cowboys because I think that he can end up having not a Micah type of impact, but in terms of having a little bit shorter arms, but still being a freakish edge rusher, I think that could have ended up being a little bit of a scary combo. We're going to go Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of the Ohio State University. I don't trust GP if you are sitting at number 13 to stay in terms of like the money. Even if he does, I don't think that you can get any worse or you can't get any worse at wide receiver 3. So we bring in Carnell. You have Carnell, GP, like building, and of course, CeeDee Lamb. You build a holy trinity of wide receivers, and that's just what you build the foundation of your team upon. It's already been offense. Yes, the defense needs help. Free agency, the value to me, we'll end up talking about it in round number 2, but the value is too good for Carnell Tate at this point. At 14 for the Minnesota Vikings, I've been so consistently on the nose of going after defensive back, and I'm going to stick to it. I really do think that Avion Terrell, Colton Hood, and then Keith Abney deserve to be in the first round. But Keith Abney does have some athletic limitations I think are going to scare the Vikings. Colton Hood's been very good, but I think he doesn't have the top-end athleticism that my corner 2 tied with Keith Abney and Avion Terrell has. And he's a feisty little guy. Like with Isaiah Rodgers having some success in the system, it just makes too much sense. And the more I watched Avion Terrell, the more I ended up liking him. And he already was like a top 25 guy for me. He boosted up to the 20 range, and that includes with guys like Clef Leuven jumping up. At number 15 for the Kansas City Chiefs, I've been on this, and I'm going to continue being right on it. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. He has the blocking ability, run after the catch is through the roof. We're seeing tight ends have the biggest impacts from these first-round rookies that we've probably seen in recent memory. I don't remember a time where year after year we're seeing the top tight ends coming out being tight ends drafted within the first 2 rounds. Like McBride was not that long ago, right? You look at Kenyon Sadiq. Well, Kenyon Sadiq's next, but Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren. I mean, some people even want to put Colson Loveland into that top group, and he's had some really good reps there. So you talk about the top tight ends in the NFL, a lot of them are going to be in this top end range, which means you need to buy or pay the premium price for the position. And Kenyon Sadiq, even though he's been a little bit inconsistent, if he were more consistent, I'd be talking about him at 12. Then that's the only reason he is available. And number 16 for the Carolina Panthers, it looks really good to see Nick Scorton being a consistent edge 1. This is also a team I think should be right in the hunt for Clef Leuven, for you guys to have actually a high floor run defending edge as well. I think that combination of Scorton, Leuven, as well as Umami Ellen would be a nasty young trio going forward. I'm pretty happy with where everything is at. I do think you could be in the market for a quarterback if you want to just develop a quarterback. That's a big if. It just depends on your vision of the future for Bryce. Eventually, money's going to come down, and you're going to need to decide whether it's worth it. But linebacker, I do think you could look at one like Sonny Styles. This is a little bit early for him, in my opinion, but it's still worth at least taking a peek at. Wide receiver wise, I do like the idea of Jimmy Horn increasing his role on this team, but I will go after the edge rusher at this point. And I do really like TJ Parker as well. And I was talking about it as like a nice combo there. He has the flexibility, he has the athleticism, and he has the size. That reminds me a little bit of how you guys ended up handling Nick Scorton. But I think TJ Parker has even more run defense capabilities. So I'm going to be perfectly happy adding him into a very healthy edge rotation, which hasn't been said for the Panthers in a long time. At number 17 for the Los Angeles Rams, we have 2 picks at 17 and 27. Um, you know, Quarterback could easily be the pick here with Lenoris. And, looking at how the teams are going to be handling this down the line, like I do think before our next pick, the Steelers there do pose a massive threat to taking Lenoris. I think Lenoris has shown incredible ceiling. Like his top end throws are just mind boggling. His running ability, mind boggling. But the processing of the game is just not there. And I think for the sake of us as fans and for the sake of Lenore Sellers as a person and professional, I'm going to send him to the best place possible. And that's Sean McVay. Lenore Sellers goes to the Los Angeles Rams at 17. At 18 for the Chicago Bears, Keldrick Falk being a top-tier edge rusher for him probably just makes too much sense. The value is just right on the nose. High floor, just somebody who's going to have that ability to kick inside as well. Like, I want him to get down to the 270 range again. This man, he was up at 288, down to 270, now at 285. We'll see if he ends up sticking at edge. I mean, that's kind of like the big question mark. Like, are you going to stay there? But I do think that it's the right thing to do. We're going to go Keldrick Falk. At number 19 for the Cleveland Browns went Spencer Fano in the first, with our first pick. Here at number 19, if I saw Lenoris here, I would end up rolling the dice. I am not going to do that. I'm looking at Mekhi Lemon and just realizing that we just lack top-end wide receiver ability. You can go Denzel Boston here all you want, but I'm just going to go after the player at the position that I think you need with the best value, Mekhi Lemon. Number 20 for the Los Angeles Chargers. We've not had a first pick yet, buddy. It's the first round. But I'm going to say a run defending edge would be nice. Like LT Overton, you can end up using him also. You guys have brought in Justin Obuigbe before. Like, you guys have shown some favorability towards Bama, a defensive lineman. But I also believe that interior offensive line is paramount. Connor Lew out for the year. And also, he's so young. Like, he's a true junior. He's not coming out. He's not. So I'm looking at Vega. Vega has been ridiculous. He was a primary run blocker last year. Just a space eater. Really good anchor, but, not really productive as a pass blocker, excuse me. This year, he's just taken up to a whole new level. And I love that. I really love that. I'm going to give him the credit. It's a really good offensive line class, but I think Vega being just so damn reliable, being an enforcer, and also being so well balanced as a run blocker and a pass blocker, to me, cancels out pretty much every other option on the board. At 21 for the Buffalo Bills, linebacker, I mean, you could talk about the edge room as well, but I mean, I do think this linebacker group is really good. At the same time, there is kind of those top guys, and the Bills need to get someone who could be a true linebacker one for the future. Sonny Styles has taken his game up to a whole new level as well. He's built like a Mike linebacker. It just makes sense on the most difficult to play defense in the entire country. And it's because of Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. It's a big reason why they are so damn difficult to play against. Now, they have contributors pretty much everywhere. Throw out Cade McDonald in there. Obviously, Caleb Downs that we've talked about earlier. Davison Igbinosun, Jermaine Matthews, like really good players. But it couldn't be the case of them being the biggest headache without Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. At number 22 for the San Francisco 49ers, this is a team that needs guard as well as tackle for the future. I've been on this. I also think you guys need a pass rushing edge rusher. Pass rushing edge rusher. That's easy to get at 54. I'm just going to be real. I'm looking at the offensive line. I love Caleb Tiernan, but I do think at this point, with the way Caden Proctor has been improving, and I ended up watching Joshua Josephs versus him, I do think Caden Proctor, as much shit as I've given him, he still was a top 10 tackle for me coming to the year. I recognized how raw he was, and he's very, very raw. But he has improved week over week, and I think he's done a very good job at improving during the year. I think he is still technically growing a lot, and I think he needs to have some time at guard. And this is the perfect situation. You're starting Connor Colby, put Caden Proctor there, and have him develop cross-train as the left tackle under Trent Williams. It's the best move you can do. At number 23 for the Seattle Seahawks, not many bad moves that you can have. Nick Ebenwari, top 10 player for me last year, ended up paying off for you guys. Love that fit there in Mike McDonald's defense. But I would say linebacker-wise, if you had Sonny Styles, you could talk about it. A boundary corner, it really depends on how you end up viewing the current situation with Reek. If you guys think that it's time to, pack your bags and go, I'm going to say probably round 2 with Igbenogsen's more of your bet. I love Abney to death, and I've taken him for you guys. I don't think he provides the athletic foundation that works with what you guys have valued in the past. So I just don't think he's going to be that level of fit. For the Steelers, I think it's perfectly reasonable to go after Keith Abney. But when it comes to the Seahawks, I think you need to have a little bit more athleticism. And Colton Hood is right up there. He's a little bit on the shorter side. I thought he was 5'11". I do this every time. He's 6 foot. But, he's honestly somebody who's improved so much, tremendously over the past year. And you guys got to remember, he ended up transferring over to Tennessee late. Like, he was not someone who's there since the early part of the year. And he's really taken a big step up. Jermon McCoy, I know the NFL. They don't like guys who didn't have a full season under their belt. This guy's a true junior. I highly doubt he comes out, which could also pull a redshirt sophomore like Colton Hood back into the hood and end up getting a dynamic duo for the future next year. Guard certainly possible. Honestly, Caleb Lamu definitely is somebody I would really like for you guys, but I'm not necessarily sure that your ownership would end up loving going back-to-back first rounds with interior offensive line. Granted, we need to take one at 55. We're still could go wide receiver here as well. You know what? With Colton Hood being a little bit more of a question mark in terms of the size and speed, we're going to go Denzel Boston. Crazy change up there. But I do think for the long haul, we need to not just solely rely on JSN. I've done this before. It makes a lot of sense. Dude who's like right in your backyard, 6'4", 210. Dude's been routing guys up and making incredible plays week over week. Crazy change up there, right? This is a live mock draft. This is what I can do. I have control over this. But at number 24 for the Lions, again, it's a situation where if Connor Lew were available, this would be perfect. But again, true junior, we're going to say he returns because torn ACL. But if we're going to address a position outside of that for the Lions, an edge rusher is perfect at this point. Now, the question is, do you want to go for more of the outside linebacker type or someone who could be flexible? And I think LT Overton is the perfect balance of someone you could put on the tackle over or outside the tackle or inside as well. And to me, I think that flexibility is going to provide a lot of value. And he's more of a creator for other people rather than himself. And to me, I'm still very happy with that. We're going to go LT Overton, edge rusher, or defensive lineman out of Alabama. And number 25 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, quarterback, wide receiver, and corner, in my opinion, are the top positions to target, then guard after that. Quarterback-wise, I just don't have faith in the quarterbacks available. I like Mayava a lot, especially compared to last year. But he also is someone little experience, right? Didn't really play like a ton last year. But, small experience, ending up having some pretty big mistakes. And then again, we're just talking about that first round caliber of quarterback. Don't really know if it's there. John Mateer, I just need to see him get healthy. Back-to-back weeks looking pretty pitiful. So it's like, as much as I love him, I still have him at 16. It's just like, I need to see you back to health, bro. Because you do not look healthy. You look like you're forcing shit. And that's not going to fly with me in the first round. And doesn't fly with NFL teams. in the first round. They can't trust you to be healthy. So we're down to wide receiver, which Denzel Boston would have been fun here. You can talk about KC Concepcion, Chris Bell, who's coming off a red hot week, or we can end up looking at corner. Now, corner, I know is going to be a primary target for many teams coming up. The Rams, the Eagles, just to name a couple, the Colts, just to name a couple in the next few picks. And let's not even talk about until pick 57. So I know wide receiver is also going to be on the mind, but we need to go after the cornerback situation. And the question is Colton Hood, Jermod McCoy, or Keith Abney. And again, I'm having Jermod McCoy return in this because he's a true junior. He's not going to have half a year of tape. I know PFF, Trev has talked about Caleb Banks in a very similar light, talking about how can I drop a guy if I haven't seen him, right? I totally understand that. That's why I have a plus on my board as well to kind of just say, hey, by the way, like if they're not healthy, we're not seeing them the way they actually are. But to me, we're right now looking at Colton Hood and Keith Abney. I think both are really good players. I have Keith Abney at 19 on my board, and then I have Colton Hood at number 41. So again, really solid traits for both of them. I think Keith Abney is a really good choice for us. Wide receiver wise, again, I feel very comfortable, but going after a guy here and getting good value. But I do think going after my number 3 corner in the class is going to pay dividends. He has the physicality, zone IQ through the roof, and then also ends up having some sticky man coverage ability. I could see Keith Abney and Joey Porter Jr. having a really good 1-2 punch down the line. At number 26, we have the Denver Broncos. And again, another team with Wattenberg up for a contract could end up going after that center route. And then again, kind of missing out on that opportunity. I don't think Jennings Dunker is a first-round player. That's just me. So just going to put that out there in case you guys are wondering, hey, you could always transfer him. I'm not there. I'm going to look at wide receiver for the Broncos, though. And KC Concepcion, kind of baller. But I am thinking about Chris Bell after the catch. The thing for me is who can end up creating more after the catch. And it's kind of like, what type of ice cream do you want? Do you want nifty and smooth, or do you want big, gritty, in a straight line? And that's what Chris Bell offers. And I think Chris Bell's fantastic. He also has shown up against some really big schools. And to me, that's a huge win. I think that his quarterback situation is just as bad as KC. Both of them are very much loved by me. Chris Bell at 14 and then KC Concepcion at number 25. But Chris Bell has just been on a tear. He is red hot, and I'm going to reward him for that. The Los Angeles Rams at pick 27. First pick was Lenoris Sellers. Wide receiver still needs to be considered here with KC Concepcion, but I'm not going to do that. I think there are some good players in this class that can end up feeling pretty comfortable with the Rams at that point. I will end up looking at offensive line here, and CC Maui-Goa does have that right tackle experience. He does have the value here and could kick into guard if you need him to. I do think ignoring the right tackle spot is one of the worst things that you can do. I really do want to go Colton Hood here. But I also think that the Rams have shown time and time again that either they can snipe it down the board or they can end up acquiring it. So I'm not going to force it. We're going to go after a player that a lot of people believe is a true first, and honestly one that I don't mind taking the first at all, in Francis CC Maui-Goa. At number 28, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. And you guys know me. You could look at right tackle for the future with Lane. You could look at edge rusher because, we'll see what happens with Nolan after coming back from injury. Would love to see him back to full health. Like, there's a lot of good edge rushers in this class, so I'm not panicking about that. The area I'm panicking is seeing the cornerback value, and this team has taken corner before. And again, with Jermod McCoy, I'm saying he probably should return to school. Again, true junior are not going to have a full year of tape, not even going to have half a year of tape. Just makes way too much sense. We're going to go Colton Hood, cornerback from Tennessee. High zone IQ, good physicality, built to be a boundary corner. Like, I just feel like you just need to solve that problem. As much as I want it to be Mac McWilliams, you can't force, Vic to end up making that move. And he feels comfortable keeping Mac McWilliams in the nickel. We're going to have him there. We're going to have Colton Hood be the option on the boundary. At 29 for the New England Patriots. Man, it's been a while since we were able to say that. Right tackle, you could look for the upgrade there, but you have a 3-year contract, if not mistaken, with Morgan Moses. So I'm going to leave that put. Wide receiver wise, Casey Concepcion kind of feels a little bit in the ballpark of what Kayshon Boutte brings to the team. So I feel like right now it is a little bit too poor value. Talking about Nick Harbor is like a weird gadget guy, but I feel like it's a little bit poor in terms of value. The question is, are you going to have arguably the most expensive defensive line soon? Because if you pay Kayvon Chase on the way he's been playing, he's making 20 plus a year. Easy. I mean, he's been playing back-to-back years like a legitimate high 2, low tier 1. I think you need to go after an edge rusher here. And David Bailey at this point, I'm not the biggest David Bailey guy on planet Earth. He has been insanely productive. PFF, do your thing. Thank you. But he is somebody who is going to be a reliable pass rusher, very smart, not going to be an enforcer in the run game, but still somebody that you're going to want. We're going to go David Bailey there, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Also, that 250 build feels pretty similar in terms of the build to what you guys are actually having some success with. Number 30 for the Dallas Cowboys. First pick, Carnell Tate. At pick number 30, could have went David Bailey at this point. I could look at defensive interior with Christian Miller at this point, Caden McDonald. I feel very comfortable if I want to wait till round 2, going after someone like Big Dumb Orange. Maybe Caden McDonald slips to that point. I'd feel very happy with that. So I do want to still look at the edge rushers because I do think that there's a very large group of them that could be going before pick 45. Cassius Howell absolutely could be the guy to come to mind. R. Mason Thomas is so good. I mean, nobody's talking about R. Mason. I mean, if you look at the ranks, it doesn't seem like PFF is talking about him. But R. Mason Thomas is he's like a freaking rabid dog. Like, you see him, and he is relentless. I saw him versus Trevor Gooseby, and it was like, holy shit. And Trevor Gooseby ended up bumping up a lot for me, but R. Mason Thomas was an absolute headache for people to guard. Linebacker as well, if we did see Sonny Styles here, I think that'd be a good position to target. Like, I know they're talking about tackle. I just don't think at this moment that you guys are in the space to go after that. I mean, the problem with Cash is these sub 31-inch arms. R. Mason Thomas, sub 32. I do think we're going to pass on it. We're going to pass on that. We're going to go back to the defensive interior. I felt comfortable waiting, but I don't think I can wait. We're going to go after the best player available for me. And technically, you talk about Thieneman, but I'm going to go after Christian Miller here, defensive interior out of Georgia. One of the few guys who's actually working for Georgia, by the way, but definitely somebody that you want to have on your roster in terms of having big explosive plays from the interior. At number 31 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, linebacker edge. That's just kind of where I want to focus. Guard, absolutely. Tight end also included. But I'm not really thinking that's their number one need just based on the value. So we're going to look at the edge here. And this is where I'm going to talk about Cassius Howell versus R. Mason Thomas. I ended up having the first player brought onto your team through free agency being Hassan Reddick on a 1-year deal. So it's a valuable position. Talk about Joshua Josephs. I think that's definitely someone at 63. Maybe I'd consider for that role, but I don't think there's a linebacker I'd feel that's valuable enough here. I'm going to go R. Mason Thomas. I know a lot of people are going to say I'd rather have Cassius Howell, but they're almost identical. Both are like 6'2", 250. Both have short arms. Both have a great first step. Both have really good, anchors as well for their size. But I do think R. Mason Thomas, I guess both of them are actually kind of like equidistant from Dallas too. But I think R. Mason Thomas is going to be a little bit more translatable with the arm length being just a bit more out of the pure exception realm. Because Cassius needs to be the exception to work. R. Mason Thomas feels very comfortably hasn't worked very often, but has worked before. You don't have to be a pure exception at this point. At number 32 for the Indianapolis Colts, I think cornerback is a huge need for y'all. The problem is I'm having Jermod McCoy return to school for reasons that I'm pretty confident in. The next guy I have available is Dave Zanigbenosin. I ended up regrading him today. I don't know what the fuck people are like complaining about. This guy has been on fire this year. Like, not the greatest athlete on planet Earth, but physical, high IQ, really good against the run. I don't feel comfortable taking him in the first. I don't think AJ Harris is all that good. So I'm actually going to then opt for the edge rushing route. And the question is, who's worth it? You got Denai Dennis Sutton. You got Zion Young, you got Gabe Backus, Mateo Uyagale, Quincy Rhodes, all those guys who would end up fitting this system very well. Akeem Mesidor, but for varying values. The guy who I think deserves to be at the end of the first the most out of that group, you can talk about Mateo, but I think it's Zion Young. Zion Young has been fantastic this year, and he's been very well balanced. He's turned it on as a pass rusher. Like, he has unlocked something that's special there. And I think that at his size, he fits perfectly into Lou's defense. So we're going to go Zion Young there. And again, pair him up with JT Tuimalau and Leatu Latu for the long run. Too many contracts are up. Not enough consistency. You talk about Samson when he's healthy, ends up being a really good edge for you guys. But I really need to see something for y'all. And Zion Young is the guy who's going to provide the most value for your roster. 33 for the Jets. You're right. This is one whole video. But first pick, Fernando Mendoza. I think in round 3, it would be a great idea. And I mean, great idea to go after Omar Cooper. Is he in this? I'm not going to take him in round 2, but he's not in this. But the wide receiver out of Indiana, like Elijah Surratt's number 2, is phenomenal. Really good. So I'm going to throw that out there. I do think defensive interior is possible. I know you could end up trading away guys like Quincy Williams. Like, you could end up looking at someone like Anthony Hill. I don't know how Deontay Lawson's on here. He was at 218 pounds in preseason, or in like when he was recovering. That shit doesn't fly with me. But that's a dark horse right there. I do think we need to go and just re-weaponize and just get more and more talent. And Jeremy Bernard's great after the catch. Kind of very reliable too. CJ Daniels has been just so good. I mean, anybody who is half through the year has over 60% contested catch rate and like an under 5% drop rate, you have my respect. And CJ is so reliable. Like, I honestly think it would possibly be my next pick for the Dolphins. So we're going to take him to just spite the Dolphins there at number 34. So Dolphins went Dante Moore in the first. Honestly, CJ would have been my selection there. I think he complements the receiving core very, very well. And I know you guys are going to say, oh, these are like kind of more so the fluff positions. We should establish everything else first. I understand that. I don't disagree with y'all. But at the same time, you need to be able to replace Tyreek Hill. You need to go, and like whether that's through free agency or not, that's up to you. But I think that guard value is something where you should end up filling it with veteran presence without forcing a rookie to do shit. If you can. Jonah Savania. But I'm going to go Casey Concepcion here. He's a top 30 player for me. CJ Daniels right outside. Like, CJ Daniels was sitting there at 38 for me, so it's like a very close range. But KC also feels a little bit more of the style of speed. Now, granted, we'll see a new organization in here, but I still think this is a great identity to have, and then also the returning ability adds another element to it. At 35 for the New Orleans Saints, Reuben Bain Jr., the first selection. Again, you could talk about it being more of a 3-4 system. I get it. But at the same time, you got to do what you got to do. Mickey Loomis is going to want what he wants. So I do think that defensive interior could also be on your radar, but I do also like seeing Reuben Bain utilized in a very flexible manner. Cornerback, it looks like you guys are doing a pretty good job with Quincy Riley. He's been up and down. Safety, Jonas Sanker, back up. So he ended up having a little bit of a stutter week, and it's good to see him back on track. You talk about interior offensive line. Especially with Eric McCoy being out for the year, we could end up seeing, the long-term vision because you started Torricelli Simpkins for a part of the year. It's very clear that your depth is absolute garbage, which means that your future starters, not ideal. Could end up talking about interior offensive line at this point for that reason. And I'm not against it, if I'm being completely honest. Wide receiver, we could still go after a guy, but I feel like you're kind of reaching at this point, and I don't like doing that. So we're actually going to go offensive line here, and we're going to go after Caleb Lamu, someone who I've talked about earlier as someone who I want to transition to guard. I have him at 13 on my board. A lot of people view him as like an early to mid-second, so that's where I'm going to take him. At 36 for the Tennessee Titans, first pick, Jordan Tyson, and based on how all the receivers ended up just pretty much like sloughing off the board, I think it's great. I think it's great we did that. Now here at 36, it sucks seeing Femi out for the year. Definitely need to focus on edge. Really need to focus on it. Now, the question is, what style of edge rusher do we want? I'm going to follow the the path that the Titans have shown, which is we're okay with guys who are a little bit on the smaller side, still growing in terms of our skill set, and not necessarily like 100% at DC's dream to have. And I'm going to go after Cassius Hell here. Even though he has 31-inch arms, I still think his production is through the roof. And also, I think he'll be a really good dynamic duo with Femi Oladejo as he ends up getting better and better. And I think we can end up taking someone, or at least signing somebody who's a little bit more high floor in terms of run defense. Talk about like a Tyreek Sapp there on day 3 that I feel a lot more comfortable with. So we're going to get ourselves the quick pass rush winner here in Cassius Howell, who I believe has 3 games of 3 sacks this year. At number 37 for the Baltimore Ravens, first pick, Peter Woods. Again, Jermon McCoy listed as returning in this one. Same thing with Connor Lew. I do think that the right option would be to look at the interior of the offensive line. And again, with so many of these tackles available, I like the idea of utilizing, a guy who could be a tackle as a guard. And I'm looking at Isaiah World here, and Isaiah World has a lot to grow into as a tackle. I think he is 2 years away from being able to start at tackle. So we're going to stick him in at guard and end up having him develop as a tweener there, which funnily enough, Filele, very similar situation, shouldn't have really been a tackle, ended up really working as a guard. I think Isaiah World can end up being in a very similar light. At number 38 for the Cleveland Browns, first 2 picks, Fano and Lemon. Now, of course, with the tackles here, you could have said, oh, well, we could have ended up waiting and getting Trevor Gooseby. It's very possible, but that was a risk I did not want to take. I do still think that you could end up looking at the quarterback at this point. You look at guys like John Mateer, and you can end up trying to develop him, but I do think that Cade Klubnik's going to be a little bit more up your alley. The question is Shadur Sanders going to be your guy? That's the big question. Because I don't think Dylan Gabriel is shown to be a true NFL starter. Like, I love DG. He's had some moments, but just overall, not necessarily showing that he has what it takes, in my opinion. And I want to be wrong about that because I love DG, but Cade Klubnik, to me, is still somebody who needs to be on y'all's radar. He's just getting underrated at this point because Clemson's having an absolute garbage year. But, tight end, you guys are great. Running back, you guys are great. Interior offensive line, honestly, I could just go back to the well at this point. I really could. I could just put Fano at guard. Not going to do that. But you could go Taron and put him at guard, or Caden Green, put him at guard, and then just continue to work. I mean, if you want to push Dylan Gabriel out, get himself a 6'8" guard. That's how you end up putting a statement out there saying, like, we're done. Like, you're done. I just don't like this pick, if I'm just being completely honest. I'm going to go an edge here. I know a lot of people don't like when I go edge, but first off, Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire, love what they're doing. They're not on contract forever. You need to have somebody working in the works. And there are a lot of very good players here, including one, Deni Dennis Sutton, who's going to be very highly sought after. I think this is a very realistic move. We're going to go after Deni at number 38. 39, Vegas Raiders, Ty Simpson, round number 1. You guys are saved. Linebacker, safety, those are right on the mind. I could talk about Dylan Thieneman at this point. I really love Dylan Thieneman. He is somebody who is in my top 15. I didn't like his ass getting ran over on the goal line when he ended up playing against Indiana, excuse me. But sometimes what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But yeah, you guys need to just play Darian Porter. I think you guys will be fine in that category. Cornerback, I just think Iggy would be a baller corner for y'all. I'm just going to be real. I think he would be a really good corner. I'm going to stamp my approval. Like, there's just such like a thugness to the Raiders that someone as physical as Igbenogson ends up fitting. I wanted to kick him down and maybe let my Steelers. Did we already draft a corner for the Steelers? We did with Abney. But regardless, I ended up talking about him for the Seahawks. We can end up doing that. But no, we're going to steal him right here for y'all. Igbenogson, I ended up regrading him. He is currently number 32 on my big board. Spoiler alert. At number 40 for the New York Giants, Mansour Delane at number 8 overall. I feel very comfortable at this point trying to upgrade the wide receiver core and getting someone who can end up stretching the field like Chris Brazzell, Antonio Williams feels pretty damn good at this point. But I'm going to go after someone unique here in Nick Harbor, wide receiver out of South Carolina. If Lenoris comes out, I assume Nick will come out as well. And Nick has just been, he's been pretty one dimensional. And then with the drop rate this year, even though it's been sporadic, I do think that, some teams will wait till round number 2. And then now you end up pretty much getting a super freak here to pair up with Malik Neighbors. And then Malik doesn't have to be someone to run clearouts anymore. At number 41, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Arvell Reese, round number 1. Nick Harbor would have been kind of fun here. But, you look at some guys available. I don't really think Antonio Williams would be actually a really good fit. But I do want to go the offensive line. And Trevor Goosby's here. He's had right tackle experience. He has really good mobility and much improved over last year, by the way. I'm going to go this route and go after Trevor Goosby to be that right tackle of the future. Honestly, reminds me a little bit of like a worse version of Paris Johnson. I think Trevor should go back to school and end up continuing to polish his game. But if he were to come out, I think this is an amazing location for him to be, to have that mentor there in Paris Johnson. At 42 for the Houston Texans, Jeremiah Love went in the first. Of course, getting sniped from Trevor Goosby is a little bit painful. But honestly, I love Caleb Tiernan. I think Caleb Tiernan's a fantastic offensive lineman. I don't think he needs to be a guard, but you just need to get good offensive linemen. We're going to take Caleb Tiernan right there. At number 43 for the Cincinnati Bengals, Caleb Tiernan would have been my pick here, but went Caleb Downs in the first. Edge is possible, but I do want to look at the interior offensive lineman options. And I'm looking at Caden Green, and I almost don't want to pass on him because I know this class just gets like weaker and weaker the more you wait. Love Emmanuel Pregnon, but I really want to get this solved. We're going to go Caden Green, tackle out of Missouri, but also former guard. I think he can end up being the long-term guard for us right there. At number 44 for the Houston Texans, after seeing 3 tackles / interior offensive linemen go in a row, I feel very comfortable with the fact that I would not have wanted sloppy seconds of the Bengals. And now we have gone after Jeremiah Love, Caleb Tiernan. Linebacker is an underrated position at this point. I think with Anthony Hill here, we need to start looking at it. Azeez Al-Shaair, dirtiest player that I've seen going from one of the best players in terms of like clean leader on the Titans to one of the dirtiest. I don't understand what's up with that. And then I think Christian Harris ended up almost like decapitating poor JSN on the sideline. Guy didn't have his helmet on, shoved him into the bench. I don't understand what that's all about. I'm a big supporter of a clean football game, but I do know that linebacker is very valuable to y'all. I just hope that, let's play the game ethically. Let's have fun. I love big hits, but again, play it within the rules. Dallas Cowboys 45, Carnell Tate, Christian Miller, the first selections. I feel very happy with that. I ended up doing that because I feel very comfortable with the edge rushers that are sitting here before me. Derek Moore is having a fantastic season this year. There's so many players that just deserve so much love. Max Llewellyn, like really good players across the board. Quincy Rhodes feels like somebody who will be viewed very highly, but I'm going to go after Mateo Uyagole. He's very skinny. If you look at him, he's very lean. Like, what's up with these guys getting so lean? It's like past the lean, right? Like, just what's going on? Yes, I know exactly what reference I ended up making, but we're going to go after Mateo here. A perfect blend of the like thinner, like more elusive edges, but also has the size that they usually covet. It's just a very unique build that I would love to see utilized properly there. At number 46 for the Minnesota Vikings, linebacker's an underrated target. Apparently Ivan Pace has been getting soft benched, and then now he just got like hard benched. But I also think center, huge issue for you. Again, we're having Connor Lew return in this because he's out for the year. Parker Brailsford just took as the number 1 center in the class. Again, I don't trust PFF grades for blocking all that much. I care more about the actual stats in terms of the pressures allowed and, just more like the big time play style. But Parker Brailsford to me just has the grittiness that I think will work very well. And he actually has a really good core strength as a former wrestling champion. So we're going to go after Parker Brailsford there at number 46. Could end up going after Jennings Dunker if you guys wanted to put him to center, but I mean, honestly, the next team I would take Jennings Dunker to. you can end up swapping them if you're that pissed off. 47, Kansas City Chiefs, Kenyon Sadiq in round number 1. Getting a pass rusher for Spags is super key. And you get the size, you get the speed, and everything. And the pass rush, quick pass rush wins with Quincy Rhodes Jr. Just makes too much sense. 48 for the Carolina Panthers, TJ Parker, the first selection. I actually like what's going on with your defensive backs. Please play Corey Thornton more. Like, he's been really, really good. But to be fair, Dylan Thieneman here, I don't think that I can end up ignoring it. The value is just too good for a top-end player. We're going to go after Thieneman there. Linebacker value was good, but I do think the value for Thieneman was just way too good to ignore. At 49 for the Atlanta Falcons, they have not taken a player so far. Wide receiver is actually a really good position for them to target, and I love Jeremy Bernard, such a high floor player. Antonio Williams is getting a little bit too much disrespect as well, but really good wide receiver in his own right. Jeremy Bernard is just so reliable after the catch and also has experience with your quarterback back at Washington a couple years ago, to where I want to reunite the two. 50 for the Chicago Bears, Keldrick Falk, round 1, just super high floor guy. Running back, I don't think is going to be the target for me here. Linebacker, super underrated. You can talk about CJ Allen for this team. Defensive interior, though. I mean, Caden McDonald, getting somebody to end up pairing with that number, with Gervin Dexter, I think that'd be great. And Caden McDonald could kind of be what you're hoping out of Grady Jarrett. So we're going to go after Caden McDonald there at number 50. Number 51 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, have not taken a pick so far in this draft. Left tackle looks ass, just to put it bluntly. Funnily enough, though, I like to take offensive tackles. So they're kind of all off the board, those that are worth taking, that is. So I'm looking at other positions. I do still think a strong boundary corner would be good on this team. And I do think A.J. Harris is probably the next guy to be taken. I'm not the biggest A.J. Harris guy, but I'm also not a big fan of this corner class in general. Malik Muhammad actually has been taking some pretty big steps up. So, you know what? He's actually someone we should consider in this realm. Chris Johnson as well. You know what? With the way that this organization works, and I'm forgetting your GM's name, but the new GM from the Rams, I actually like the idea of going Chris Johnson here, cornerback out of San Diego State. Going to be a little bit more into the analytics, and this guy's very well balanced in areas that matter the most. And number 52 for the Los Angeles Chargers, first pick, Vega Ione. Second pick, we need a run defending edge rusher. Gabe Akis could be that, but I like him more in terms of the pass rush. Josh Joseph's a little bit more worried about that. Maybe you'd end up waiting till round 3 in order to go after the run defending edge rusher. Other areas, I actually really like the idea of getting a blocking tight end here. You guys have the receiving tight end right now, as it is with Aronde Gadsden. Looks phenomenal. I think he was like number 5 all time in terms of exactly like the amount of yards he got, which is crazy. But we're going to end up taking one of my favorite players in the entire draft, someone who's not even listed. Trev, I sent you the list. Please update it. Please give me my players. But we're going to end up allowing RJ Maryland to get the boost today. But it's going to be Eli Raridan, tight end from Notre Dame. He is my number 50. Where the hell did I put him? 48 player on my board. I think he's fantastic. Great tight end, amazing blocker, and he's been really reliable as a receiver this year too. Number 53 for the Buffalo Bills, first pick, Sonny Styles. Very happy with that. Second pick, I feel very comfortable with this as well. He's been on fire this year. Keon Saub, safety out of Alabama. Just a lot of people have been targeting Hubbard, and that's why Hubbard has so much production, because Saub keeps shutting shit down. So we're going to go after Keon Saub there and just fix up that second and third level. 54 for the Niners. I want to get a quick pass rush winning guy. We got Proctor there in the first to fix our edge woes. Here at number 54, got to get some quick wins. Joshua Josephs absolutely could be that. Romello Height's a little bit too one-dimensional for me, so I'm actually kind of thinking that I'm going to re-opt for Joshua Josephs, who has 34 3/4 inch arms. So we're going to go after that. Some people think he should be a first. I'm not there. I end up regrading him, and I think that, like, to me, he is a true day 2 to early day 3 guy. And I love Joshua Josephs. It's just, I think the hype's gotten a little too far. Seahawks at 55, Denzel Boston was the first selection. We are going on the interior of the offensive line. Jennings Dunker would make a lot of sense for this team in terms of the physicality aspect. Um, I I'm just still growing to love him. I'll just say that. Emmanuel Pregnon's the guard that I actually really, really like. But I mean, he's 6'5", 318. He's someone who could be a tackle. I'm going to show my love right now for Emmanuel Pregnon. I think he's been arguably Oregon's best offensive lineman. And so we're going to end up taking him from left guard, move him to right guard, and end up just having a little bit more consistency there. 56 for the Detroit Lions, first pick LT Overton, and I feel very comfortable with that. Second pick, again, in the center realm, I'm actually going to go with center this time, and one that's not listed. Once again, Trev, please put him into the thing. It is going to be Pitt's center. Shout out to, you know what? I know one of the fans of the show loves Jake Brockermeyer. We're going to have him be the placeholder, but it is someone who you see on your screen right now. It is number 18, Lyndon Cooper, center out of Pittsburgh. He's up to 315 pounds from 300 last year. So I think he should be a little bit more at 310. I think he ended up putting a little bit too much weight on, but somebody who is really, really solid in one-on-one matchups and dynamic in terms of his athleticism, even at the overweight size that he is, in my opinion. So I think that he's going to be a great center in the NFL. 57 for the Steelers. Keith Abney was our first selection. And that's because I knew all these quarterbacks would eventually be here. Like John Mateer, it's kind of worth throwing a bone out at this point. Based on the athletic traits, I think it's worth it. It's just the health needs to be a concern, which in the second round, teams usually start saying, like, do we care too much about the health? If you want to go after another quarterback, Jaden Maiyava, definitely worth it. Quarterback in round 2 has not historically worked out very, very well, but it's also, this is the type of class with the depth of quarterbacks currently, we'll see who returns, that could end up having just too many guys to be valuable enough in the first round to where these end up working out as like potential, like legit first round options that just end up slipping to day 2 for some sporadic reason. 58 for the Denver Broncos. Chris Bell goes in round number 1. Here in round number 2, I'm going to go after an absolute mauler in CJ Allen. A lot of people have him as their linebacker 2. I'm going to show some love to him here, and he is taking a big step up. I do still see him get carved up a little bit in terms of the pass game. We'll leave that as is. Rams went Lenore Sellers and CeCe Maui go with their first picks. Wide receiver still is possible. You could end up talking about Antonio Williams for this team. I think he'd fit very, very well. But I do want to look at the cornerback realm. And Malik Muhammad, I want to give him credit. He has done a very good job this year, coming back from injury and ending up taking over that Oklahoma game. And then again, continuing that streak versus Kentucky. I'm going to give him the love that he deserves. At number 60 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Colton Hood was the first selection. I do think that the Eagles need to look at potentially an edge rusher, but you could end up waiting on that. Again, there's a lot of different guys in this class who have all these different flavors of opportunities. Obviously, you guys know me. I love Malachi Lawrence, 35-inch arms, 263 pounds, and I think he's number 8 or he might be even higher than that in the country in terms of true pass rush win rate over the entire year. So keep that in mind. I do think that offensive tackle is possible with them if they end up seeing a guy they end up believing in. I don't see that. I think Emil Wagner is actually perfect for this team if he ends up coming out. That is, he's a true junior. I highly doubt it. But if he ends up coming out, round 3 would be amazing fit. Very athletic, has some really dominant wins. I'd feel very comfortable with him. But I think defensive interior is the right option at this point. You'll have 1 year left of JD, 1 year left of Moro Jomo, and I think going after someone whose higher ceiling is right. Now, Caleb Banks, I've done this before. I'm going to go after something a little bit different. I'm going to go after someone who has these jaw-dropping reps, who doesn't have an injury red flag. That's Amari Washington. If I'm not mistaken, he's also 330 pounds. So he's someone who can rush from the edge, by the way, at 330. He's that athletic. And I think he's number 4 on Feldman's Freaks list. Definitely somebody that you're going to want to take a look at. And definitely one that I want to see on the Eagles. Number 61, New England Patriots. David Bailey was the first selection. I think that's just a solid high floor edge rusher. Just kind of forget about the position if you need to. We're going to go after a wide receiver at this point. And I think downfield ability is so crucial that I think someone like Chris Brazzell, who's shown the deep threat ability, 6'5" as well, is going to be such a nice addition. You just want to stretch the field as much as possible, and nobody's really done that as well as Chris Brazzell this year. So really good additions there. David Bailey, Chris Brazzell, both having phenomenal years. Both guys who I don't necessarily fully believe in at the rate that they're producing in college, but still somebody that I think could end up working out there with the Patriots. 62 for the Green Bay Packers. First pick, essentially, is for Micah Parsons. Cornerback, definitely spot I'm going to look at here. AJ Harris is going to be the guy who I go after just based on what people believe in him. I'm not there. That's just me. But I also don't like a lot of guys in this class. So, Chandler Rivers has height concerns. D'Angelo Ponce, very similar situation. Xavier Scott, the exact same situation. Like, there's a lot of guys. I like Thaddeus Dixon. But again, there's only so much to my love that I can kind of provide. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I feel very comfortable with this. Again, Jermont McCoy, for those of y'all who are wondering, I'm allowing him to return to school in this one just because it's kind of bullshit to throw somebody out there as a second round pick after he doesn't play and he's a true junior. And with NIL, it's kind of like the writing's on the wall. At number 63 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, first pick are Mason Thomas. And honestly, I feel very comfortable with that. You could talk about Romello Height being a good option for them if they ended up wanting to wait. But I'm going to go after the linebacker route. So many good players here. Drake Bowen's actually a really dark horse one. Love Kyle Lewis. I mean, you guys know me. I'm a super fan of Kyle Lewis. But I think realistically, if you're going to go after someone who could end up being like an actual impact guy, Rodriguez is the highest floor in terms of just balanced across the board. I'm actually going to go Kyle Lewis. I think he's just, even though he's more of a star position, he's just been so damn good. Like year over year, first team all ACC as well. Last year. He's going to be it again this year. I need to go after edge as well as linebacker almost every time I can for the Buccaneers. You could look at wide receiver again, but I feel very comfortable with Kyle Lewis there. And at 64, we have the Indianapolis Colts with Zion Young in round number 1. With Zion Young in round 1, obviously you need to ignore the edge position. Cornerback, AJ Harris would have been probably the selection. Again, just not really a fan of the guys who are available. Like, it's just, I don't want to force anything to y'all. Just go to free agency. You know what I mean? Just don't force things that don't make sense. Could look at the quarterback realm. There's guys like Garrett Nussmeier here that, and like, you can end up training them up. But if you somehow win the Super Bowl under Daniel Jones, I highly doubt you're going to try to replace him year 1. So we're going to look at linebacker as well. And I'm going to look, Whit Weeks is someone, you guys just know me. I love Whit Weeks. But Jacob Rodriguez is on an all-time tear right now. This guy's been just lighting it up statistically. I'm going to give him some love because he also is 6'1", 235, a little bit better built overall than we have with Whit Weeks, who I believe is like 6'1" and 220. So there we go. We're going to go after Jacob Rodriguez here, linebacker out of Texas Tech. Let me know what you guys think. It was a fun draft. And again, going to try to get a little bit more consistent with getting these mocks earlier in the week. Again, spend some time with my parents over the weekend. So happy that ends up being the reason for this. But thank you again for watching. Love you as always. See you later. Peace.